Bro, we're live. We're recording live here. Welcome back to Cryptocito, guys. I have my friend today with me here, Juri. Man, how are you doing today?
It's a pleasure to be here, first of all. And yes, I'm doing pretty good because the market looks pretty healthy right now. We recovered quite well from the severe crash from, I think it was 2 weeks ago or so. Yeah. So I'm very happy, and the current state in Lisbon is also super amazing because there are many people from meetups, and it's super amazing to talk to all the guys. And I think DeFi and crypto in general is at a very interesting and exciting state right now.
Yeah, and we made this video a few days ago where we talked about Lisbon and why we moved here and how everything is, which got very well received. So maybe in the future, in the next, I don't know, a few weeks, we can make a follow-up on that, maybe even live stream it with some other friends that are also deeper into the whole tech situation here. But that's not what we're going to be talking about today. Today, I thought, man, you're the co-founder of DeFi Times, so you should know everything about DeFi, right? So I thought maybe, because I know there's a huge influx of new people that just joined crypto that have no clue what DeFi stands for, what it is, and also why it's relevant. So maybe we can start off that you share some insights, what DeFi actually is, why it's relevant, and what it basically means in very simple terms.
Yeah, so first of all, that's very important. You can't know everything about DeFi because this is such a huge and complex topic, but I focus mainly on the Ethereum ecosystem. And for me, DeFi is the following. DeFi is the greatest revolution the humankind has ever seen. It's basically all about bringing financial services on a blockchain and decentralize it. For example, today you have a bank, and then you can go to a bank and you deposit money. And not every bank does that, but a lot of banks do this. They mainly make money by taking your deposit money and lending it at a higher interest rate. So the bank is not more than a middleman who lends your money to others. And the problem is, we saw it in 2013 a lot, that when banks, for example, on Cyprus or in Greece, when they go bankrupt because their lending deals didn't make sense or screwed up, then your money is gone. So there's a huge risk if you give your money away to a middleman who deals with that. So this is one aspect. The other aspect is that we have, in my view, a huge problem, and this is the following: we have more than 1 billion people, according to the World Bank, that do not have access to the financial system. So in plain words, we have more than 1 billion people in the world who do not own a bank account. Why is this so? The reason for that is that a bank can reject people from creating a bank account. So if I'm too poor, the bank can say, hey, Yuri, you are too poor, you can't afford the 10 euros per month. So yeah, you don't get a bank account, and therefore you're completely isolated from the financial system. You cannot trade derivatives, you can't buy a property, you can't do everything. Even if you just want to start a business at the local office, you have to inherit a bank account to say, hey, this is where I receive my money. So this is a huge problem because people stay poor, and this is they can't do anything about it, even though they have the greatest ideas. And this is a huge problem for me. So first of all, the current banking system is inefficient and dangerous, even for wealthy people. And secondly, and this is the most important point, we have a growing world population, but still there are over 1 billion people today who do not have a bank account. And the gap between rich and poor will increase more and more and more and more because very few people decide who can access a financial system and who not. Yeah. And thirdly, the financial system is completely intransparent, and DeFi tackles this problem. It's completely decentralized, it's permissionless, and it allows everybody to join. And because it's based on a blockchains, it is completely transparent. So DeFi will solve not one but many problems, and I could talk for hours now, but I think this is like the core takeaway from that.
I think that's a very good macro perspective on DeFi and why it matters. And sometime in 2018, when I was living in China, I gave a presentation about basically how blockchain will reshape finance. And I also talked one time only about banking the unbanked, basically, right? And when I did my research back then, I remember this I think Uzbekistan is one of the most unfair countries in the whole world, because you have to pay 60 or 70 or 80% to pay back a loan to the banks, right? So these guys are exploiting their own people, for whatever reason, right? It's very inefficient, and people are unable to get out of poverty, right? And are not financially included. So DeFi tackles that, like you were saying, but not just for the unbanked, but also for the underbanked, right? So there's also a bunch of people, probably even a bigger share of the cake, that do have maybe basic access or basic bank accounts, but they don't really have access to financial services. They can never get a loan. They are not qualified to, to get access to financial products that the rich have, in order to secure their money, protect their wealth. It's not so much about also making money or getting loans. It's also about wealth protection. So there's a lot of aspects to it. I also think DeFi fixes a lot of those problems, because, like Juri was saying, it replaces middlemen. It replaces human beings in the end of the day through mathematical secure codes and algorithms, right? In the end of the day, it's just that. It creates peer-to-peer networks. So that is what, whenever I talk about the Web3, I talk a lot about the Web3 development. That's exactly what a Web3 is. It's a network of peer-to-peer networks that connect individuals with other individuals, right? So through technology. So you don't have to rely on centralized middlemen anymore that take the major cut of the cake. Now, that's one thing. But Juri, so you're DeFi Times, right? And you talk a lot about crypto projects. I think this whole concept of decentralized lending, derivatives marketplaces, synthetic asset markets came up really big in 2020. It really blew up a lot, right? So can you name, I know you have your big five, some call it the DeFi Bluechips. What are those DeFi Bluechips? Whenever somebody talks about it's a DeFi Bluechip, what does that mean? And what are these projects?
So back in 2020, it was a pretty crazy time because DeFi emerged out of nowhere. And there were several projects, and everything was new back then. But there are some established projects right now who also survived. For example, the DeFi crash at end of December and in end of September 2020. So it basically describes the high quality projects that really proved themselves. So if you talk about the blue chip, we talk mainly about, for example, about Maker. We talk about Compound, Aave, Synthetix, Chainlink, those projects, because they are essential for the infrastructure of the of DeFi based on Ethereum, which is the biggest part of DeFi, and they proved their concept. They are concept proven. So you can really trust them, because if you are in a DeFi, especially if you chase every pump on Uniswap, you will recognize that there are a lot of rug pulls, a lot of exit scams, and so on and so forth. You do not know where your money is really going to and what you invest. But these types of blue chips are proven and essential for the infrastructure of DeFi and Ethereum.
Yeah, and I think this is the current stage right now. But I think as we move forward, one aspect that I'm mostly excited about, and I talk a lot about this as well, is the cross-chain compatibility or the interoperability kind of things. Because the problem that I see, especially, or not the problem, but maybe the challenge right now, that's the current state, is that most of these DeFi blue chips, they're not interoperable with the whole space, right? And that's not a flaw, that's not an error, that's just the current stage, right? Because it's still experimental early stage. So how do you see that whole aspect? And maybe can you explain also a little bit about what interoperability basically means and how interoperable DeFi ecosystems might look like in the future?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most crucial topic to talk about right now. Because as you already mentioned, it's a pity. We have different blockchains. So if we talk about smart contract networks, we have Ethereum, Cardano, we have Polkadot, we have Solana, Avalanche, the list goes on. And the problem is to bring assets from one blockchain to another is pretty damn hard. So if you, for example, have DAI locked in Maker, it's hard or moreover impossible to get it over to Solana. And this is a pity, because DeFi would be much more diverse and much more user friendly and much more exciting and interesting if we could use the whole ecosystem as we want to do it. And I think one of the most important projects that tackle exactly this problem is Cosmos. They have a I know you're a big Cosmos
to the moon, bro.
Yeah, but they're basically a huge network, and they connect different blockchains via hubs. So there are like different hubs. You can imagine it like a huge network out of different blockchains, and in the middle there are hubs, and every blockchain can connect to these hubs, and then you can transfer assets back and forth from one blockchain to another. And here we are at how I view the future. I think DeFi will become completely crazy in the next years. Why? Because, for example, let's take Aave as an example. One of my favorite DeFi Bluechips. Aave also offers flash loans, and with flash loans you can borrow money and taking arbitrage and realizing arbitrage opportunities in the market. However, because Aave is not interoperable, or the Ethereum ecosystem right now is not interoperable with other ecosystems, it's limited. Aave's arbitrage opportunities are limited to the Ethereum ecosystem. But now imagine if everything is connected, for example, via Cosmos, and you could potentially take advantage of arbitrage opportunities that are in the deepest corner of the Solana ecosystem or of the Polkadot ecosystem. How cool that would be! Because then DeFi would be greater, more diverse, and more interesting for many other people. And it's also essential to have different blockchains, because every blockchain has kind of its trade-off, and to enable that the world population really uses DeFi actively, interoperability is essential, because then people can decide which blockchain or which service makes the most sense for them, because everybody of us has different needs or different demands. And this is why interoperability is so important, to say, okay, I do not have to decide to go on one blockchain and stay there forever. No, you can go there and say, okay, if I have to do something somewhere else, that's not a kind of a big deal. And it enriches DeFi even more.
Yeah, and I think that really clearly shows how early we are in the space. The fact that we're even talking about this and trying to explain that, right? And we're also learning about this every day almost. It feels there's something new coming out. There's a new protocol. There's a new upgrade or technological implementation, right? Nowadays, or even like, I don't know, even 5 years ago, nobody really talked about, there was no YouTube channels that explain how does the internet work, how does TCP/IP work, how does HTML work, right? Like for the mainstream people, there was no such thing, right? Most people don't care. They don't really care about how does the technology behind the scenes work. What they care is, which coin should I buy? How many X can it make? Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? But what we want to express with this video also is the fundamental long-term direction that we're taking with crypto, and DeFi plays a huge role in it, because it's just fundamentally going to reshape finance and our economies, right, around the world. So this is really cool stuff. And if you enjoy that and like that and appreciate that type of content, then please subscribe to this channel. Also go over to the DeFi Times podcast, one of the most widely adopted and listened podcasts around the world. DeFi specific podcast. Also, they have a YouTube channel now, super active on Twitter. They have a newsletter, a lot of cool things. So this is just a quick injection here today about DeFi. Maybe Yuri, if you want to wrap it up, to share some final thoughts around the whole DeFi topic, and also just your general thoughts about crypto, and maybe some advice and recommendations, because I know a lot of people are still stuck in 2017. They don't know, like, should I buy US? Should I buy IOTA? Should I buy Shiba Inu? What should I buy now? What should I do?
Well, first of all, I'm not a financial advisor, so don't expect financial advice from me. But over and all, you have to realize one thing: the internet revolution was big, but the huge difference now from crypto in general is, and the differences between 2013, 2017, and 2021 is now the following: that we tackle the biggest or the most powerful tool of every government in the world, the financial sector. Because if you have the control over finance, then you have basically the control over everything, because it's the most powerful tool of every government. You can shut down transactions, you can control the economy, the impacts are huge. And this is the tool or the sector we are dealing with here. And there is so much money in this in the financial sector. And just imagine if we put all of this money onto DeFi and decentralizing the whole financial system. The impacts will be absolutely huge. But right now there are only $68 billion or so locked in DeFi. We are just at the beginning. But the impacts of decentralizing the financial system will be are so huge. We humans cannot expect imagine something such exponential or just Vitalik and two of his friends. So really think about that. Don't go, hey, I just want to get rich. If you do the right things, if you deal responsibly with your finances, I think you will be fine in DeFi. If you don't chase every pump, trust me, you're on a good way. But study and see a few things from a greater perspective, because DeFi is here to stay.
Yeah, that's a great way to end up today's episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe, take care, and be good, guys.
Bye-bye.